Hello everybody, my name is James, hope you're doing well and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about the sprint race in Brazil. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more Formula 1 content. Also make sure to follow me on X at James's Pit Lane, I'll leave a link in the description, but let's jump straight into the video. So there was a lot going on in that sprint race, a lot of incidents. There was even a red flag, and it was Lando Norris who ended up winning the sprint. Despite all the chaos, Norris seemed to have the race under control. Towards the end of the race, though, he was put under pressure by the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli, who I think did a great job in that sprint. You know, he qualified in P2 and throughout the race stayed within 1.5 seconds of Norris, and then in the final few laps got within DRS of Norris and really put him under pressure. So fair play to Antonelli. I think he did a really good job, but as I say, it was Norris who managed to win. And speaking about taking the sprint win, Norris said, "It was tough. It makes the win more rewarding when you have a race like this. With Kimi here, he was certainly not making my life easy. It's one of those ones where you have to push, because you know the guy behind will push behind a bit more. It was sketchy. Even with the wind and the degradation on the tyres, it was difficult. Not an easy race, but it's always a difficult one in Brazil. Mercedes were quick. I expect us to be a bit better, but we weren't. I don't know how much of that is down to tyres, or did Mercedes do a good job?" Now, during the sprint race, it was clear that Norris was struggling with his rear tyres, but at the same time, the Mercedes car does look really strong. Over one lap, it wasn't great, but over a race distance, yeah, that car does look quite quick. So it could be competitive throughout the rest of the weekend, and could we be on perhaps for a shock Mercedes win? We'll see what happens. Now, while this was a good race for Lando Norris, this was a bad race for his title rivals Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen. Starting with Verstappen, he's been struggling with his Red Bull throughout the weekend, complaining about the car's handling. And yet, during the sprint race, he was struggling for pace, was unable to match the Mercedes, unable to match the McLarens, and he ended up finishing in P4. But it was even worse for Oscar Piastri. He was running in P3, but a few laps into the sprint race, he crashed out at turn 3. Basically, this happened on lap 6, and it seemed Piastri just spun himself at turn 3, touching the damp inside curb, and then he went around and hit the barrier. And on top of that, Nico Hülkenberg and Franco Colapinto also went off at the same corner on the same lap. And that is what caused the red flag in the sprint race. And speaking after the sprint race to Sky Sports F1, Piastri said, "I will try to put this behind me. There's a lot more points on offer tomorrow, so the better job I can do in qualifying to get a good starting spot, the better it will be." So what actually happened with Piastri? Well, you can see from Kimi Antonelli's onboard that Lando Norris kicked up a big splash of water as he went over the curb at the entry to turn 3. Antonelli avoided the curb, having seen the splash, but Piastri, Hülkenberg and Colapinto all seemed to find a puddle that caught them out and sent them off at turn 3. So yeah, not good for Piastri, with him losing a lot of points in the standings now. Now, on top of that, there was also an incident right at the start of the race on lap 1 between Liam Lawson and Oliver Bearman. Basically, the two drivers were side by side on the run down to turn 4, but then they made contact, and that sent Oliver Bearman spinning round. And the stewards will investigate the opening lap tangle between Lawson and Bearman after the sprint. Now, in my opinion, this was Lawson's fault. I felt Bearman had left room on the inside, and it sort of looked like, in my opinion, that Lawson went into Bearman. However, on straight before the incident, it did look like Bearman moved over on Lawson, and that too is being investigated by the stewards, with them looking at an alleged driving in a manner deemed potentially dangerous by car 87 on a straight. And while following the whole incident between Bearman and Lawson, I think there could potentially be penalties for both drivers. And it'll be interesting to see if there is a penalty for any driver, what type of penalty will be applied. As we know, this is being investigated after the race, so will they apply a post-race time penalty? Or will it be a grid drop for the Grand Prix if a penalty is applied? We'll see what happens. Now, I want to end the video by talking about what happened with Gabriel Bortoleto at the end of the sprint race. He had a horrible accident. He was going down the inside into turn 1 trying to make a move, but found there was no grip there on the damp part of the track. He then went into the barrier on one side of the track before going airborne on his way to the barrier on the other side, and his car was just completely destroyed. It was a horrible accident, and the really good news is that he's okay. He got out the car and into the medical car by himself. So yeah, really good news, he's okay, but that was a horrible accident. But that's going to be the video from me today. Thank you ever so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more videos, and until the next one, take care, bye.